What's going to happen at the 2024 Italian Grand Prix? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are making our predictions for the 2024 Italian Grand Prix at Monza, the home of Ferrari. It's going to be an exciting one. The vibes of the Monza weekend is always top-notch. The Tifosi definitely show out every single time, and they are convinced every time that they're going to prove once and for all that they're the greatest fan base in the world. Will they do it again? They're going to give it their best shot. But nonetheless, we're here to see a lot of exciting things. Only 9 rounds remain in the Formula One season this year here in 2024. And not only that, we are post the summer break and post Zandvoort, where after Zandvoort, we have to talk about it at least a little bit. Logan Sargent dropped by Williams. Unfortunately, I think it was the crash in FP3 that pushed them over the edge, and they are going to be replacing him with their current F2 driver and academy driver, Francis Canapinto. And so it's going to be very interesting to see a rookie who's 6th in the Formula 2 standings hopping into the Williams opposite Alex Albon for 9 races to finish the season. It's going to get interesting, and yeah, we're going to be keen to see what he's able to do in these last few rounds. It's going to get interesting because there's not really that many seats open for 2025, and so this could be an opportunity for Canapinto to get in the car for 9 races. And when it's, Formula One just seems to be as it is right now, that not many spots are opening up, except for the fact that next year there's a bunch of new rookies, but that's besides the point. Gonna get interesting, but we'll leave that one for the weekend and see how he is able to adjust to the F1 life very, very quickly. And yeah, it'll be a fun watch, I'm sure. But let's go ahead, let's jump on into our predictions and kick things off with our biggest positive surprise. Before we jump into our biggest positive surprise, if you haven't already, subscribe below. Please go ahead and do that. Join our little community here. We would love to have you. We love chatting about Formula One and sim racing here on this channel. So if you're interested in either of those things, subscribe down below. We would love to have you. Let's go ahead and jump on into our biggest positive surprise, and I am picking Nico Hülkenberg as my pick for biggest positive surprise. Nico finished P11 in the Dutch Grand Prix, finishing just outside the points, doing his best to make an early one-stop work, but unfortunately just ran out of tires too little, too late, and finished this one in P11. I do think that Monza is going to suit the Haas very much more than in most other tracks, especially Zandvoort, so I'm keen to see exactly what can happen this weekend. I know I predicted them to score points at Spa. I think my one crazy prediction was a double Haas points finish. But that said, Spa is one much more interesting and dynamic circuit than I think I originally gave it credit for. And while the Haas is definitely very much improved, maybe not quite that much. Now, on the other hand, Monza, very simple track, very much all about straight line speed and making sure that you're able to hit top speed basically as early as possible and taking care of the tires just enough. I think Haas is going to be able to do that, and I think Nico is primed for a points finish once again. After it's been a few rounds since we've seen the Haas finish in the points, they're only 7 points behind, I believe, RB in the constructors standings, and so it's still all to play for, and I know they're going to be pushing to finish as high as possible, and I think it's going to start this weekend with Nico Hülkenberg in the points. Moving things right along to my pick for biggest disappointment, and I've gone for a team in this one of Aston Martin. Now, Aston definitely are in an amorphous sort of position in the Formula One grid, where they're definitely, I think, in the top half of the teams in terms of their car's pace, but at the same time, it really seems to fluctuate from track to track what they're going to be able to perform better at or worse at. This week, I think we could see Aston Martin struggle just a little bit. We've seen them kind of bounce around, in and out of the top 10. And I think this is going to be a weekend where, especially with the simplicity of the track, I think it could get a little bit more competitive. And I think we could see Aston Martin fall down the order just a little bit. They're very much in no man's land. Fernando Alonso doesn't look particularly interested in, really putting in those over-the-top performances and trying 100% to get everything out of the car. And while Lance Stroll has had good moments so far this year, especially the last few rounds, it definitely ultimately ends up with them kind of finishing exactly where you expect them to. But so this one, I think it could just be one of those weekends for Aston Martin like it has for so many other teams. I just think it's going to be them this weekend. What do you think? Let's move on to one of the more interesting qualifying sessions on the grid this year. I think it's going to be a very fun one. Monza, like I said, a very simple track, very much all about straight line speed and maximizing every exit of every corner. Basically almost every corner leads to a long straight, which you will bleed time if you get it wrong. So it's all about who can put it right in the right spot at the right time, in the right corner, at the right speed, and the right momentum to really just get the most out of the car, as well as who can find the right balance between downforce and no downforce. I think it's going to be a very fun one. Let's kick off our qualifying predictions with P3. I'm going with the Scuderia Ferrari driver of Charles Leclerc. Charles definitely outperformed himself in Zandvoort last time out. I'm hoping he's going to be able to carry over some confidence to Ferrari's home race. They're going to be in some special... Sorry, I almost couldn't get it out without laughing. Some special new race suits, which are black with yellow accents and some funky patterns along with it. Going to be very interesting to see. Obviously in the car, you're not going to see a lot of it, but nonetheless, I do think Charles is going to do well enough to put it P3 on the grid in qualifying. Charles definitely the type of guy who's going to get up for the Monza qualifying, and I think he's going to put it P3, second row here, and probably overperform the car just a little bit as Ferrari still tries to figure out exactly what they're doing, but I think we're going to see Charles in the top 3 of qualifying. Moving on to my pick for P2, I've gone for Max Verstappen. Now, I know that we all agree that the Red Bull is definitely not the fastest car anymore, but Max Verstappen is still one of, if not the best and fastest driver on the grid in terms of maximizing that car out from under it. And I think Max is still going to be motivated enough in the championship. I know there was a lot of talk over the last week about who's going to win the championship, who's got this, who's got that. But I do think Max is going to still basically assert himself as the second fastest car on the grid. And I think we're going to see it again in qualifying. Starting on the front row, I think he's going to put it P2 in qualifying. And then that leaves our pick for pole position around Monza. And I'm going with the car that just won by 22 seconds on the rest of the field. I'm going for Lando Norris pole position. That McLaren looks unstoppable right now in most conditions. And I think it's not going to stop here just yet. It's going to take a monumental effort from everyone else to take away pole position from McLaren. And I think it's going to be Lando who's going to continue to carry that momentum and going to put it on pole for Sunday's race. Let's quickly go over the race podium. We'll start with P3. I have kept Charles Leclerc in P3 in this one. For some reason, just with the lack of reliability issues and things like that, I think this race is going to become all about track position, and it seems like Ferrari are always able to slide a car onto the podium at Monza, even if they're not the fastest car. We saw Carlos Sainz do it last year after he and Charles were battling basically down the stretch of that one, and so it always seems like they slide one driver on the podium just because it's their home race. And I think this weekend is going to be no different, because I think Charles is going to be able to hold his position and Ferrari will be able to run a good enough race, especially if they can carry the momentum from the Dutch Grand Prix over here to the Italian Grand Prix. I think they're going to be extra motivated and extra focused to get it right. So I don't think we're going to see very many typical Ferrari mistakes, and I think we're going to see Charles finish on the podium at their home race. Moving on to P2, I've gone for Max Verstappen. I know, it's been quite a minute since we've seen Max win a race, and I think this could be a trend over these last 9 races where Max, I don't think, is going to win every race like we initially thought, mainly because it's been a very long time since we've seen him win. The Red Bull allegedly had some not so legal components removed. Obviously, that's all alleged. No, confirmed reports one way or another have come out about that. But it has definitely been apparent that Red Bull is not nearly as good as it was at the beginning of the year, where they were winning by very, very wide margin over the rest of the field. Something's changed. I don't know if it's the loss of Adrian Newey. I don't know if they just really went in the wrong direction with the development of the car. But at the end of the day, that Red Bull looks like it is struggling, and it is showing mightily, and I think it's going to continue. But that said, Max will still do good enough, and I think the fighting from the rest of the grid down will allow him to still finish on the podium in P2. And then rounding out our podium predictions, we're keeping it exactly the same. Maybe our race winner of the Italian Grand Prix, Lando Norris. Now, I actually really went back and forth when pondering these predictions on whether or not I think actually Lando would be able to keep up the momentum of his win in Zandvoort, or if potentially even slot him into biggest disappointment, just because it feels like the type of talk that we've heard over the course of the week about Lando challenging for the championship and all of this and that and the other thing. But that said, I decided to take the safer route, and actually the McLaren looks very, 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 very good right now. And Lando, if he can keep up the momentum, he looked like a man possessed at Zandvoort, winning by 22 seconds, including banging home the fastest lap on the final lap of the race. That if he can manage to keep that momentum going, I think it's more than possible that he'll put it on the top step once again, get his second win back-to-back and his third win of the year and the third win of his young F1 career. Definitely looks like he's able to take advantage. If he's able to pull this out, I think we're able to start talking about not necessarily him winning the championship, but I think we'll definitely have something to talk about as these last, at that point, 8 races of the season pan out. And so it's going to get very interesting. All it's going to take is one rogue max, performance to really bust this thing wide open, and it could get very interesting going down the stretch. But it all starts with a win on Sunday. Let's round out this thing with our one crazy prediction. This one I've centered around the newest addition to the grid, the rookie on the grid here with 9 races left. Cantapinto is the sole focus of my one crazy prediction, and I really went back and forth on how I wanted to do this one. Kind of similar with my Lando prediction. I just really couldn't make up my mind, but I decided to go for it. I think he's going to come in, and Monza and Williams just go together like fish and water, like white on rice, and I think Canapinto is going to finish P15 or above, aka outside and above the bottom 5 on the grid. Now, we routinely see Logan finishing down there, and I think that the Williams car, not necessarily the best car at anything in particular. They even look like they are struggling a little bit in straight line speed. But nonetheless, we've seen a lot of magical things happen in a Williams at Monza, and I think it could happen once again. The rookie is going to come in and finish P15 or better and beat 5 current drivers on the grid, and I think the hype is going to be real for him going into the next round. Guys, there we have it. My predictions for the 2024 Italian Grand Prix, and as well as my community predictions. If you noticed as the video went on, a black bar here along the bottom giving our community predictions and what they think is going to happen for each prediction that we made. If you're interested in having your predictions included in the video, you can head to the link down below, join the Discord, and leading up to every Grand Prix weekend, I'll make a call for predictions, and if you get them in before I release the video on the Wednesday before, it'll be included here along the bottom like you saw in the video. I appreciate you all who are coming in, hanging out. I hope you enjoy the Italian Grand Prix. Monza just has a special feel to it, and I'm hoping that this year is no different. As always, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below what your predictions are for the Grand Prix this weekend. I can't wait to see what you guys think. And as always, leave a like if you made it this far into the video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. That's going to do it for me here in this one, guys. I hope you enjoy the race weekend. We'll be back to review it after it's all said and done, and I'll see you in the next one.